There is an industry worth over $100 billion globally. It has more daily visitors than Netflix, Amazon, and Twitter combined. It is accessed in virtually every country on Earth by people of virtually every age, background, and occupation. And yet almost nobody talks honestly about what it actually does to the human brain. Not the moral debate, not the political argument, the neuroscience, the actual documented, peer-reviewed science of what happens inside your head when you watch pornography. That is what this video is about. To understand what porn does to your brain, you first need to understand dopamine. Dopamine is your brain's motivation and reward chemical. It is released when you eat, when you exercise, when you achieve something, when you fall in love, and, in very large quantities, when you experience sexual arousal and orgasm. Your brain's reward system evolved over millions of years to motivate survival behaviors. Eat food, dopamine. Have sex and reproduce, a lot of dopamine. The system worked beautifully for most of human history because the rewards it was designed to chase were relatively rare and required genuine effort to obtain. Then the internet happened. Pornography delivers an almost unlimited supply of novel sexual stimulation on demand at any hour for free, requiring zero effort. And novelty is critical here. The brain releases more dopamine in response to new stimuli than familiar ones. This is called the Coolidge effect, named after a mildly awkward experiment involving President Calvin Coolidge and some chickens that we will not get into right now. The point is that your brain is wired to find novelty exciting, and internet pornography offers infinite novelty at the click of a button. Here is where the science gets genuinely interesting. When the brain is exposed to repeated intense dopamine stimulation, it does something called downregulation. It essentially reduces the number of dopamine receptors available, a process of adaptation designed to maintain balance. The brain is trying to protect itself from being permanently overstimulated. The result is tolerance. The same content that was exciting before becomes less exciting over time. The brain needs more stimulation to produce the same dopamine response. Studies using brain imaging have found that heavy pornography users show reduced activity in the reward circuitry in response to sexual images compared to lighter users. The same pattern seen in people with substance addictions. The brain has adapted. It has turned down the volume on pleasure. This is also why research has found associations between heavy pornography use and what is sometimes called porn-induced erectile dysfunction, a phenomenon where real sexual encounters with real partners fail to generate the level of stimulation the brain has been conditioned to expect from a screen. The brain, recalibrated by months or years of high-intensity digital stimulation, finds reality comparatively underwhelming. This is not a moral judgment. It is neuroscience. This is the most debated area of the research, and it deserves honesty. The question of whether pornography is genuinely addictive in the clinical sense, like alcohol or drugs, is still actively debated among scientists and psychiatrists. What the research does show is that compulsive pornography use shares several neurological features with behavioral addictions, escalating tolerance, compulsive use despite negative consequences, difficulty stopping, and withdrawal-like symptoms when access is removed. Brain imaging studies have shown similar patterns of prefrontal cortex impairment in compulsive users. The prefrontal cortex being the part of the brain responsible for impulse control and decision-making. Essentially, the part of the brain that is supposed to say, maybe not right now. Whether that constitutes addiction in the formal diagnostic sense depends on which researcher you ask and which diagnostic framework they prefer. What is not debated is that for a significant subset of users, pornography use becomes compulsive, distressing, and genuinely difficult to control. In the interest of accuracy, because this is Capsule and we do not cherry pick, The research is not uniformly negative. Studies have found no significant correlation between moderate pornography use and relationship dissatisfaction in many populations. Some research suggests that for certain individuals and couples, pornography use has no measurable negative effect and may even have modest positive associations with sexual satisfaction. The effects vary enormously based on frequency of use, individual neurobiology, relationship context, and pre-existing attitudes toward pornography. The honest scientific answer is that moderate use in adults appears to be largely harmless for most people. The concerns arise primarily with heavy compulsive use, particularly when it begins in adolescence, when the brain's reward circuitry is still developing and significantly more vulnerable to conditioning. Adolescent exposure to pornography is where the research becomes considerably more unanimous and considerably more concerning. A developing brain exposed to high-intensity sexual stimulation before it has finished wiring itself is a different situation from an adult brain making an informed choice. The prefrontal cortex, impulse control, decision-making, long-term thinking, does not fully develop until around age 25. Starting heavy pornography use at 13 is not the same as starting at 30, not even close. Pornography is not going away. It is one of the most accessed categories of content on the internet and has been for decades. The question was never really whether people watch it. The question is what it does. And the honest answer is it depends. For most adults using it moderately, the neurological impact appears manageable. For heavy or compulsive users, the brain changes are real, documented, and meaningful. For adolescents, the risks are significantly higher and the research considerably more alarming. Your brain is plastic. It adapts to whatever you repeatedly expose it to. That is one of its greatest strengths and, in certain circumstances, one of its most significant vulnerabilities. The dopamine system that evolved to motivate survival does not know the difference between a genuine reproductive opportunity and a video on a screen. It just fires. And if it fires often enough, at high enough intensity for long enough, it changes. What you do with that information is, as always, entirely up to you. Thanks for watching and for sticking with the science all the way through. Hit the like button, subscribe to Capsule, and we will see you in the next one.